How's it going, guys? CrackedRack here, and today I am back yet again. Today I'm going to be telling you the story of how I got fired from being a certified nursing assistant for the elderly last year. Keep in mind, I made sure this video is in respect to the law and people's privacy. I'm not going to be revealing anyone's personal information. But anyways, around last year, 2022, I was in a dark place. And I had basically just started the production of a book, which is my novel about a school shooter that I've been working on for basically years. It was inspired by other, disturbing movies. I thought I could try my hand at it because I have way more experience writing scripts than making videos. FBI, by the way, please don't come back ever again. It's a fictional book. Anyway, I realized I didn't have enough money to really fund the whole thing around that time because there's like thousands of dollars to be spent when creating a novel, and I really only had enough money for a few aspects of it, so I decided to just get a part-time job to assist with the book. Now, upon looking at jobs, most of them were garbage, like McDonald's or Kohl's. Like, who the fuck cares about Kohl's? And I didn't want to deal with it, so I looked for more alternative jobs. And with that, I found a nursing position, hiring at a facility that was like 2 hours away from me by car. And it had really good pay, like $24 an hour. But it was really sketchy and in a weird part of town. And the qualifications were horrible. It was like, have a year of customer service skills. And I was like, yes, perfect. I can get a start in the medical industry and hopefully have time to finish my book in between working periods. So I applied, and I got an interview the very next day. I drove out there, and the whole 2 hours away, and at the interview station, there was this really hot manager lady, and 3 ugly, old fucking hags. I mean, these women really looked like hags compared to the attractive woman in the room. And they were elderly. It was like seeing 3 rotten pumpkins surrounding a fresh apple. And what do you know? The attractive manager signaled me to sit next to her. That's not suspicious. There's nothing suspicious about this job listing. Now, at first I was feeling pretty good. Like, alright, that signals I must be pretty attractive too compared to these fucking hags. They were actually so gross. I don't mean to be an asshole, but they were like 350 pounds, 80 years old. They had like an unintentional mustache as women. They had that nasty old poopy perfume thing going on. And keep in mind, this was last year, so I was 21, freshly 21, and these hags looked at me like, what is this fucking douchebag doing here? And they ended up being right, because this job was not for me at all. Anyways, I walked out of the building, and I started thinking to myself, something's a little fishy here. The attractive lady wants me to sit next to her, the only straight male. She sure didn't read that out. The pay is $24 an hour. Okay, you're gonna pay me that much after getting this job so easily. And the interview was the easiest thing in the world. This was sketchy as hell. And then I figured out what it was. The catch. I wasn't just going to be working at a specific place. Oh no. I was going to be basically a dispatchable 24/7 ambulance for the fucking elderly in Montana. No qualifications to do that. I mean, yeah, I had some experience dealing with like hospice, but not like this. This was nuts. And I had to be in charge of a lot of it. And it also freaked me out because my car was so expensive to run with gas, and that would cost like $500 of gas in the month that I worked there. That was like half the paycheck. I also thought it was really weird that I didn't have to list like really any references. I didn't have to get a license, and they were really nice, but they had so many problems way out of my league to deal with that I had no business trying to solve. Like the first dispatch I had was because the client had fallen over Then the next dispatch, the same day, I got dispatched again. I had to go to a senior home and stay there for like 11 fucking hours. And that freaked me out because I didn't know how to do this line of work. I was pretending. And if I'm there for 11 hours, that means someone is gonna need something serious from me, which I'm not gonna be able to provide without extensive assistance. So I faked it till I made it, but I didn't make it in the end, basically. I went to the senior home and it was a fucking nightmare. It looked like a building straight out of Manhunt 2. It was really creepy, and it was next to a street where several people would do donuts and drag race each other at 3 in the morning while smoking marijuana. Marijuana so pungent, you could just smell it in the air. And my very first dispatch was that I needed to go into a 500-pound man's room and wipe his butt of all the poop off of it. And it also warned me to be careful interacting with him due to past actions, whatever that meant. So I went into that man's room, I managed to pull him into a wheelchair and take him to a toilet where I profusely wiped his ass. And I mean profusely. It was like a video game of collect the shit. I literally cleaned him dry with many towels and gloves. It was fucking horrible. I hated every second of it, and I think he did too, because he was religious and he didn't want to deal with this, and I certainly didn't either. And I also had to ask him what to do a lot, because I didn't know him. And yeah, after cleaning him up, I basically just had to go give people blood pressure readings and food items. Keep in mind, these were not normal elderly people. These were severely mentally unwell elderly people who could and would potentially sometimes throw shit at you. So a lot of the job really was just arguing with the elderly people. They'd be like, I want a cookie. You basically have to be like, you already ate 9 fucking cookies and you have diabetes. No, you can't have a cookie. And they will likely throw a tantrum, which can get very scary. You think this isn't scary because they're old. Some of these motherfuckers have the body of a 40-year-old and the mind of a toddler, well into their elderly years. There were instances where I had to pull grown men's pants up in underwear above their ass and get really deep in there, which was awful. That trauma stuck with me for a few weeks. Not to be derogatory, but I felt borderline gay after those experiences. So yeah, time went on, and I went to like 50 more dispatches and did a shit job at most of them. Not on purpose. I tried my best, but I think I tried so hard that I was just an anxious mess, and I sucked at it. So yeah, time went on, and I went on to like 50 more dispatches, and in between physical labor, I was writing my book, Deplorable Instinct. Basically, the boss one day was like, hey, you did pretty good wiping, so you're gonna go ahead and take care of one of the most vulnerable patients. And I was like, oh, fuck. And I go into her room, and it's pitch black. And I ask her to wake up. And she does. And she's a quadruple amputee. And I helped get her in her wheelchair, got her water, and she also requested to watch American Ninja Warrior a lot, which tells me she liked watching people with limbs, which was just very sad. But yeah, my little crusade here ended around a month later. I got dispatched to my final dispatch, which was an elderly man 30 miles away from me who needed to be showered. So I got in my car and drove to his house, and I did the stupidest thing here yet that basically made me quit, like quiet quit. Or get quiet fired, I'm not exactly sure. See, I managed to fake my way pretty well for a while, but that just proved my stupidity for this job. I showed up to his house and walked in, and they looked very weirded out by me, possibly because I was younger. You know, you don't really see a lot of 21-year-old CNAs, they're usually a lot older and more mature. Or maybe they just saw that I wasn't a woman and was worried about what their, religious family member here would think, being showered by a man. So I took him into the shower and everything was fine. It was only about 15 feet away from the living room though, which was really awkward. He wasn't too bad, but he did say, man, I really wish you weren't showering me right now, quite a few times, and I can't say I blame him. I wouldn't want me to shower me either. So here's the fuck up. After showering him, I had to do a few other things for him in terms of general grooming and hygiene for his head. And I remember I was told to try and make it as luxurious for the client as humanly possible. So I decided that because he had bad legs, he didn't have to stand up to see his facial grooming progress. I'd take a photo for him to see, so he could just sit there on his nice little stool and see it. So I did it, I showed him it, I explained my reasoning for doing it confidently, and then I put the phone back in my pocket. I gave him, I had to rub ointment on him, because of his skin condition, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't think you're gonna be doing this anymore for me." And I was like, "Why? Did I do something?" And he was like, No, it's not anything you did." And so I then left, and in my car, I realized that I walked in there, took their grandfather, who was concerned about being showered by a man, and into the bathroom, and they just heard this, and then I basically leave a few minutes later. That's when I honestly just kind of got embarrassed, and I requested to only work at a specific place, and they were like, "Meeting time, here's our final offer. The worst shift at the worst place." And I was like, "Can I get something better?" And they hung up. Well, they didn't hang up, but they told me to have a nice day, and I never heard from them ever again. And I can't say I'm necessarily sad about it. And that was it. Over a month of pretty goddamn bad trauma and extremely hard work that puts McDonald's to shame amounted to $2,000. 2,000 smackaroonies, which helped considerably fund Deplorable Instinct, but it's still not enough, and I could have had a much smoother experience working literally anywhere else. Oh yeah, lastly, I will mention, there was this, 30-year-old man living there, and he was super weird, and he was super lonely, and he would just hang out at the senior home by himself, and it wasn't a matter of mental health, because he was very average in a lot of ways, and he didn't know anybody here, and none of the senior citizens liked him, and it wasn't a matter of money, because it was a really expensive home. So what the actual fuck was that guy doing there? These elderly people have, fucking COVID-19, and they're coughing that shit around everywhere, and the people are dying every day. Why does he want to live there? He's not a patient. He doesn't have... Not that it's any of my business, I just thought it was super weird. He also asked me if I liked the film American Psycho, as well as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I actually love those film franchises. And it gave me a good idea when he asked this. I gave him a copy of Deplorable Instinct, well, an unfinished early copy, and he said he liked it. He told me a day later. So, yeah, that part was cool. Moral of the story is, don't get a job you're not licensed for, because you'll probably fuck up. I didn't realize that I was supposed to give, CPR to the patient if they started fucking dying mid-driving a car with them. I had to drive very long distances with very sick people. So many windy roads and creepy locations, I felt like I traveled to a fucking Castlevania mansion at one point. Anyway, that's all for today. See ya.